It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Aaron Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Aaron Saunders. Alan, how are we doing?
I'm doing all right, Smitty. I am doing some traveling in New Jersey. At a funeral to attend for a member of my wife's family. So taking care of that and getting to catch up with her family, which is good. Obviously, wish it was better circumstances. But so joining you from the road today. And, man, not a lot going on in Steelers Nation today. So lack of news has been appreciated by me as I've been indisposed, but makes for challenging podcasting at times.
Well, that's why we have the YouTube comments, and I'm sure a lot of them will resonate with my sentiment here. I obviously want to offer my condolences to you, your wife, her entire family, your guys' entire family on the loss there. But, as we continue to say on here every time that we do one of these, unfortunately, life does go on, and we're not going to stop for anybody. Again, the YouTube community, I wanted to bring this up. As you were kind of saying traveling there, it put this comment that was on my mind the entire weekend that I wanted to bring up. First things first on the podcast. Dylan Edwards here said, pretty much listen daily, started back at home in England. Took you with me for some time while I was living in Australia. Now I'm living in Sweden. And it's awesome to keep up with Steelers news and start to learn more about this beautiful game.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Mr. Worldwide over here.
I have no idea how to respond to that. That's incredible.
Step aside, Pitbull. Dylan Edwards, the new Mr. Worldwide.
That's really cool. And I really appreciate that, the comment about learning about the game, because I feel like that's kind of what we try to do. Like, we try to find a way to be fun and also have you learn something. And
if Dylan's not already, I can't wait for him to get familiar with the whiteboard at some point.
Oh, yeah.
If he's not already. Maybe he is familiar, but
I'm itching now. I've got a couple ideas about the whiteboard here coming out.
Cool.
One, I can tease one. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't think this week. Probably next week I will get to. I want to talk about quarters coverage. There's a lot of chatter about some of that entering the Steelers defense and what it means. And I'm very well versed in quarters defense because I covered Pitt for a long time, and that is literally all they run. So I know all about it. So we'll get into that on the Morning Rush one day, probably next week. Also, speaking of teasing, can confirm subs only live stream, me, you, and DB this Thursday at 6 p.m. live here on the YouTube channel. If you are not a member of SN Plus, get over to the website, get yourself signed up so you can have access to our live stream on Thursday at 6. Want to maximize participation for that, so we'll start shouting that out early.
Yeah, absolutely good stuff. And there was something I was going to say within there that now I forgot. Oh, you mentioned about Pitt playing a lot of quarters coverage, and this isn't just like a me sentiment. For a lot of time, like I thought that it was, but like a lot of people talk about this now. Pitt corners like don't really get a ton of recognition in college, but then they like go to the pros and carve out like very long careers for themselves, whether it's, not like necessarily top flight guys, but like guys that end up playing like a decade. Like you blink and all of a sudden they've been in the league for like 8 to 10 years, or they're transitioning to safety like Jason Pinnock. Like these guys just carve out longer careers. Do you think that's because of, the island that Pitt kind of puts them in, the defense they play in, and then, better equipped to take on the pro game?
I think it's that, and then there are some pro defenses that do a lot of those things. Look at like Buffalo's defense. I don't think it's a surprise to me that Dane Jackson and DeMar Hamlin had a lot of success going from Pitt to the Bills. It's the same scheme. And another one of those defenses that does a lot of that has been Vic Fangio. And Avonte Maddox was another one of those players that made the transition, was playing in Philly for a long time. Now Darius Slay is in Pittsburgh. Had a lot of success in that Fangio scheme. I don't think it's a coincidence we're talking about quarters defense now with Slay. And it is, even though he never did it in college because Penn State ran all man-to-man, it is perfectly suited for Joey Porter Jr.'s skill set. So something I think we definitely should be talking about this offseason, because feels like that's something that we're going to see this year.
And the addition of Darius Slay to the secondary, even if it is for 1 year, still playing at a really high level. In my opinion, your opinion, a lot of other people's opinion, they're better in that area than they were last year. All respect to Dante Jackson. I think Darius Slay is a better player, even at 34 years old, which begs the question. This is more of a bigger picture thing, not just looking at corner, but that's how I want to transition to this topic. Do we feel like the Steelers are in a better place right now than they were at this point last season? You pose this. I don't know if you want me to answer or you to answer, but the first thing I wanted kind of like a clarification from you on the way to look at this. When you're saying this, should we be looking at this in terms of like better position outside looking in long term or just for the 2025 season? Like, what was your thought when you posed this?
Well, I think you can look at it multiple ways. I think there's multiple valid answers. I think actually one of the things that I think has me feeling a lot more optimistic about the future of the Steelers, and why I don't understand why so many people are feeling so negative about this team, is I think the blueprint for how they're getting their future quarterback has never been more clear.
That's why.
Okay. And that doesn't have any impact on the 2025 season, really.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, just the fact that, like, there is a plan. That plan is obvious. That plan looks like it has a decent chance of success. I honestly feel like the 2025 season is kind of gravy. Like, if they go out and do about what I expected, well, then that's fine. If they do better, that's also fine. If they do worse, it's kind of also fine. Like, it doesn't – like, there's not really any place they've kind of built themselves into a no-lose situation. I think it's a no-win situation for this year, obviously, but I kind of feel like it's kind of a no-lose situation either. They can go out and do well, or they won't. One way or the other, they're going to get to where they need to be. And so I think that's a valid – I think you can look at it multiple ways.
Yeah, well, okay, you kind of said the reason that I was kind of asking that follow-up, because I agree. I think when you're looking at them long term, it's even more so than the quarterback position, just like really the way that they've kind of approached business since Omar Khan has taken over, whether they're there yet. And I don't think that they are. You obviously got to hit on the quarterback next time you take a swing, or not, how far away you believe they are. I think it's easier to see that you can like see the vision with what they're trying to do. And towards the end of Kevin Colbert's tenure, while the team was still competitive, it seemed like it was just like year after year, just trying to maximize the wins in that one season. And like the long-term vision was harder to align with than it is right now. You know what I mean? So I think that that's why it's easier for me to say, I do feel like they're in a better place right now, and they continue to be in a better place year after year, just because they're still on this upward trajectory of getting better. But in terms of 2025, I even feel like they are a little bit better than they were in 2024. One, for the Slay over Jackson reason. You could go up and down the roster, to be honest with you. I think Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren I like more than Jalen Warren and Najee Harris. Not slighting Najee Harris, but in terms of the fit for the offense, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to give them their best quarterback play since 2018, healthy Ben Roethlisberger before his elbow went. The wide receiver room, to me, kind of a wash. I like DK Metcalf a little bit more than George Pickens, but like obviously beyond that, it's not like there were many additions in the room. I think, he's a first-year player, but I don't want to say Larry Ogunjobi was giving them nothing, but you spent a first-round pick on Derek Harmon, Keanu Benton getting into a bigger role. I like that group more than I liked them last. The big question is to be on the offensive line, and I think that this is a group that's just as talented as they have been, maybe even more, with the investments they put into it. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take for it to come together. So even for 2025, I'd say they're in a better spot, but really I'm looking at this long term and saying, yeah, I can kind of align with the vision. I see what they're trying to do. Hopefully next time they take a swing at quarterback, they got a hit.
Yeah. I think there's I keep like people saying it's like, oh, here we go, 10-7 again. I'm like, you're kind of missing the point of everything they've done this offseason. Like you said, like, yeah, they're trying to win as many games they can, and sure, 10 wins is a very, very valid prediction. But like, you're missing the big picture plan to get out of that cycle that is there now, that was not there 3 or 4 years ago, or at least was not evident. And I think that's why I think like this offseason, while the team is better, I don't think it's like abundantly better. Like, I like Aaron Rodgers better than I liked either of the quarterbacks last year for this season.
Yeah.
I like Caleb Johnson is a better fit for this offense than Najee Harris. Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano represent certainly a more talented pair of tackles with a lot more upside. I have a hard time believing they're going to be worse. They might not be better, but I have a hard time believing they're going to be worse. I think they're better at defensive line. I think they're way better at corner. Safety's basically the same. Linebacker, maybe a slight downgrade. Maybe the only position I don't think they're better at.
Yeah, as we were trying going through that, I started to think like, I really don't want to like make this seem like it's more than it was, but the loss of Aaron Roberts, I'm very curious about how that's going to impact that room. Just because I don't like the 1-for-1 swap, if that's the way that we want to look at it with Malik Harrison. I understand you have Cole Holcomb coming back. We'll see. They spent the 7th round pick on Carson Bruner. Is Mark Robinson going to make more of an impact there? Second year Peyton Wilson, who I'm very high in terms of obviously the coverage upside that he can provide in playing on, the role that he did last year, maybe expanding upon it a little bit. But how does that Aaron Roberts role fill out? Like, I think that was very important in like kind of in the locker room too. I think that's a presence that needs to be carved out by somebody within that group as well.
Yeah, and I think they add Jack Sawyer to what was already a very strong outside linebacker group. I feel good about that. That might be really the only position where I don't think they're better. So if you only got one position group where I don't think you're better, then I think you're better. I also think the schedule's easier. Not a ton easier. It's still difficult, but it's not 3 games in 11 days against Super Bowl contenders, 2 of them on the road difficult, which has never been done before, probably will never be done again.
Yeah. If you remember, like last year, I think at this time, maybe a little bit closer to the season, we were saying, yeah, we think the 2024 team is better than the 2023, but we'll see if it ends up showing in the results because of the schedule that they have in the back half of last year. Kind of carrying over that thought, how do you feel right now as you look at this team with the schedule they have and everything like that?
I think they are a better team than they were last year. And I think they also have so much, like last year's team, I expected to struggle at the beginning of the season because of the amount of newness, new coordinator, new quarterback. Obviously, you do have a new quarterback this year again. But like, I think the fact that it's the second year with Arthur Smith, I feel a lot better now that I did this time last year about their ability to take advantage of what I think is a fairly weak early part of their schedule. They obviously did it last year, but I was a little bit surprised that they were able to do it as well as they did. Whereas this year, I think it's a lot more reasonable to expect that success early in the year. The Ireland trip will be a big sort of, I think that's honestly a turning point game for the season. Like if they win that one, I feel pretty good about them being better, at least as good as they were last year, if not better. If they lose that one, things could go sideways there. But I think this is a team in position to be better. If not, you can be the thing about like saying they're better is like you can finish with the same record and be a lot better.
Sure.
But I think they are a better team.
Why do you have that thought in terms of the Ireland game? The opponent, the test that it is to travel in that capacity, like for an international game. Is it all
I think it's like I think it's like it's just putting the results in a blender. I think you get a lot more outcomes. You know what I mean? Like I just think you're introducing so many different variables that it makes it harder to predict that game. And the Steelers did not do well with a lot of those variables the last time they went there, by some of their own admissions in the recent past. So I don't know how confident I am. Like Mike Tomlin on the road in Baltimore, unfazed by that particular challenge. Ireland, I don't know. That's one that we don't have a lot of track record to go on. The one track record we do have is not great. I think that's probably an area where like some caution is. And then I also just think like when you have that much that goes into one game, a loss there has the opportunity to turn into something more than that. That, like, week 4 on the road at the Arizona Cardinals just does not. You know what I mean? Like, you can lose that game because of the build-up and how much it is, the amount of travel and time that's going into that one game. I just feel like it does have the opportunity to sort of spiral in a way that, like, a random one-off road game, especially against an NFC team, usually does not have.
I was going to ask if you feel like that it could kind of be to a detriment or a benefit. Obviously, depending on the result there, how it could be parlayed, propelling forward. That, but also, like, there's not many guys that are on this team right now that have even had like that international experience. So could, being naive to it potentially be their friend there as well? I could see the pros and cons to it, but like, I don't know. I wonder your thoughts.
I don't know. No, I think I would rather be more experienced in that. I think that being naive to it is helpful when it's like psychological. I think this is about having the right plan and knowledge base of how to attack something that I would rather be experienced with. I think sometimes teams get in the playoffs that don't have a lot of playoff experience and they just don't know what they don't know. And that can be like a benefit for them because they're naive. Like that doesn't affect them. I think you've seen some, like Washington last year.
I was just saying, I was saying Jaden Daniels, but you said Washington as a whole.
Yeah, very little playoff experience on that whole team. I mean, you have Bobby Wagner there, sure, but like not a whole lot of other guys. It wasn't just Jaden Daniels. Like that whole team hadn't had any playoff success in a long time, and they just kind of went in and was like, "All right, it's fine, we got it." So I think that can help in some of those areas. But I don't know about this Europe trip. I would be a little cautious about projecting that as the Steelers win. And I think the Vikings are a good team with a real uncertain quarterback situation, but a great defense. And so, like, that was going to be a tough game no matter what.
Really good weapon. Yeah, I mean, literally, if the quarterback is good, they're really cooking there in Minnesota. It's going to be interesting to see. Do you think that's what this also pops in my head there? Because, okay, now you're talking about, like, obviously the experience being a benefit there. And we know from a football side, what Aaron Rodgers brings to the table still at this point. And even, some of the off the field stuff that he can bring to the table, obviously from a leadership mentor perspective. I wanted your opinion on like what that could provide, even just for 1 year, as to why, there's a lot of people, we've talked about this, that are questioning the move if you're not really Super Bowl contenders. So I kind of wanted your thought, even if it's just for 1 year, about the off the field stuff that Aaron Rodgers could provide that could be beneficial long-term for this team.
Yeah, I think there's definitely things that he can help with that will last beyond his time here. I think one of them is some mentorship for Will Howard. I mean, you're really putting that guy in about the best possible position to succeed. I think the interaction between him and Arthur Smith will be very telling about Arthur Smith and how he's going to, if he's going to succeed. Arthur Smith didn't do well in Atlanta with miserable talent. He did great with Ryan Tannehill. He did okay when he had Matt Ryan. He did fine last year, got the best out of Justin Fields anybody ever has, and did okay with an aging Russell Wilson. But things didn't go well personality-wise, right? I think with Arthur Smith, like, if he can make it work personality-wise with Aaron Rodgers, that's going to say a lot about him and his tenure as, like, an NFL offensive coordinator. That, like, we don't, like, right now, would you say, like, Arthur Smith is, like, an offensive coordinator for another 5 years? I don't know. I think it could really go either direction. Would not surprise me. Would not surprise me if he gets a head coaching job next year. Also wouldn't surprise me if he gets fired by the Steelers after 3 seasons and never has an offensive coordinator job again. Like, I don't think either of those outcomes are really crazy to talk about. But, like, if he goes out there and has a good season with Aaron Rodgers, a better season than the Jets were able to get out of Aaron Rodgers at 41-42, I think that says a lot about him and his offense working at this level still, and not just being like, oh, he was good with Derrick Henry, but he could never figure it out again.
regardless of what it looked like last year, they finished 16th in total offense, and going into the last 5 weeks, they were 11th. I tend to think that there's a better chance of him getting another head coaching gig than like completely flaming out, just because I think there's going to be like, first off, he was getting some looks this offseason. Now, how towards the top of the list he was for some of those organizations, I can't speak to, but the fact his name was even mentioned this cycle, if he were to put together, like we're talking about, another season of similar results, whether it's, sniffing around the top 10 in terms of total offense, again, when you look at like the receiving group that he's had each of the last 2 years, and the quarterback being a 37-year-old, or in this case, a 42-year-old option at that position, I tend to think that there's going to be another team that kind of looks at all these variables, looks at the quarterback play, and to be quite honest, just the overall roster that he had in Atlanta, and he's going to end up getting another head coaching. I think he'll get at least one more head coaching gig, and then it would have to go south there for him to not have like that role again. And I think that he's going to have plenty, even if like things were to flame out with the Steelers, I could see still another team bringing him in as an offensive coordinator and giving it a shot there, and just saying, once again, I think there's things that you can you'll be able to talk yourself into, that his offense was held down primarily because of whether it be the lack of weapons or the quarterback play. He's not been able to have like all of that together for a recipe for success.
Yeah, and I think Aaron Rodgers also could be here more than just 1 year. I don't think it's like a done deal that he's like a 1-year player.
Yeah, we kind of just talked about it as if it is, though. Yeah.
If he plays well, there's no reason to not want him back to again, not just be a mentor then for Will Howard, but also for a first-round pick. Yeah. Now, he'll have to be on board with the plan. He'll have to understand that, like, they're going to draft a first-round pick, and the idea will be at some point in this season you're going to hand the reins over. And I can't speak for Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if that's something he would be interested in doing, but if he is, why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he plays well, why not?
Him as opposed to Mason Rudolph in that role. I mean, that's kind of the way that Mason's on a 2-year deal. I guess in my assumed the way that this was going to go down was Aaron Rodgers is the starter this season, ends up riding off into the sunset after whatever results happen here, and then Mason, kind of the incumbent starter in place of has that position when you draft somebody, and we'll see how quickly that rookie can take over for him. But you're right. I mean, if Aaron plays well enough this year where they have the desire to bring him back and he has the desire to bring him back, I guess just swap those names out, and it could be Aaron and trying to hold the rookie away for as long as possible in 2026. So I guess we shouldn't roll it out, but it's not something that I've honestly had on my mind until you said that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a possibility. I've had a lot of people asking that.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about a new team that Desert Cactus wants us to bring up in the Steelers search for a wide receiver and where we could find one. Think about something. Would love to hear your knowledgeable thoughts on it. No problem. When it comes to acquiring a wide receiver too, why not the Colts? Team has a ton of receiving options. I appreciate the thought process and giving Anthony Richardson the best system possible. Another injury, lack of development. Looks like they're going to have Daniel Jones, their starting quarterback. Add that to new ownership, who may just want to blow up the operation and start a full-on rebuild. Makes sense to me, and I'd love to hear why I'm wrong.
I don't know that I agree with them having depth. They've got Michael Pittman. They've got Alec Pierce. They've got Josh Downs. They've got A.D. Mitchell. And they've got nothing else.
Yeah, so I guess
I'll be honest. They've got a bunch of guys I've never even heard of. Who is Ashton Doolin?
That's the name that I was going to bring up that I kind of like. I think he's probably the next in the pecking order.
I don't know who he is. Where did he play college football?
Oh, see, that I don't know. I'm not on the you and Nick Farabaugh train of being able to just list off where everybody played. I knew nothing about him before he came to the Colts. But let me see here. Oh, he's from Reynoldsburg, Ohio. He's a track star. Played at Malone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's below my radar. Clearly, Anthony Gould was like like he's like 5'8", like overdrafted 5th rounder. Like I didn't understand that pick last year. I don't understand it now.
I think he caught like one pass last year.
It was just not good.
And to me, you can have one, because like the thing with Dolan, and I think why I think there's some intrigue there, and I know that we talked about this with some other guys too, but like he'd be able to help out in the return game for somebody if it were here or wherever else. But like I Gold with his size and stuff, like there's probably only room for one of those guys on the roster this year. So yeah, I'm with you. Unless it's for like contract reasons and them not seeing a future with Pierce, I don't even see the guy that they would be moving.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't know what they and maybe you could make an argument that they have like a lack of depth somewhere else that the Steelers could help them with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but like it doesn't look to me like an obvious fit in terms of like them having just an overabundance of depth.
And from like what the Steelers should be looking for, I think Downs is the receiver, the only receiver. Well, they're not to trade Pittman, I don't think, but like would be the one out of the names that we mentioned that even like, yeah, I would take Pittman. But I don't think they're going to move him. Like Pierce is like that, go route, deep ball specialist, super like a hyper athlete. Do you need that along with DK Metcalf and like, I don't know, AD Mitchell? I would say kind of the same thing. Like,
they'd be selling pretty low on AD Mitchell. I had high hopes for him as a second-round pick. It hasn't really. It did not go. In fact, I drafted him in at least one of my dynasty leagues, and it did not go well.
There were definitely some people that were hurt by picking, even though as good as he ended up being too, Zach Frazier over AD Mitchell. Obviously, turned out well for the Steelers, but
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I see the depth there. And even like you could say like, oh well, they drafted Tyler Warren and he's going to be a big part of their pass catcher. Sure, but like Bo Alley Cox and Jelani Woods are their other tight ends, so it's not like they're like playing a bunch of 12 personnel or something. Like it's just not.
Is Jelani Woods out yet again, or is he finally back?
I have no idea. I think they have Will Mallory from was in Miami too, but not good. And what do you like? What about our quarterback is either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson says like we don't need as many playmakers as possible. I don't know. I don't think the Colts are in a very good situation, but I don't see them trading a wide receiver.
Well, that's the thing too. Like the other part of that comment that he mentioned would be interesting if they were to just say, "Hey, we're hitting the reset button," on the roster. We're going to try to accumulate draft.
But all those guys are young.
Pittman
would be the one. Maybe Pittman. I mean,
well then, yeah. Let's
like, talk. What's that trade going to cost?
Yeah, I don't know. Unless we can, these have been happening a lot lately. Whether it's like the Luka deal or the Geno Smith deal or the Rafael Devers deal, where teams aren't even shopping guys now. They're talking to one team and just saying, "Hey, we're trading to you."
Pittman's got to be almost a first-round pick. Probably is a first-round pick. They can't trade that. They need that.
Yeah, what's his contract like?
It's not bad. It was like a 370.
Okay.
So it's a pretty doable contract. And he signed before last season. So like he's got 2 more years. Probably making
$23 million cap hit, 29 next year. It's a 22 base salary.
And those would probably be lower if he's on the Steelers. So you're probably looking at like 20 million or 25 million cap hit. Like I think that's doable. I don't see the Colts.
No, that's why I mentioned Pierce. I think Pierce is
maybe at the deadline. Like if they're just really bad at the trade deadline, maybe that's
definitely within the realm of possibility.
And then maybe you get them for like a second.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out, and if that were to come to fruition, how it would affect the cap. And let's end it with a cap question for you, Alan, because Banana Pistol has one.
Love those.
What's the deal with the team required to spend to a certain percentage of their cap/cash? I think it's spread over a few years. Can you explain?
Yeah, so it's either 3 or 4 years, depending on the part of the CBA you're in, and this is the middle. This is a 3-year span. This is the middle year. So from 2004 to 2006, every team has to spend 90% of the cap in cash in that 3-year span. The Steelers are well below that par right now. They will be until they sign TJ Watt to a contract extension, and then there'll probably be money. And obviously, we don't know what the 26 cap is yet, so we don't know exactly what number they have to hit. But this is almost never a thing that matters. Like, almost everyone who's trying to be good will just naturally spend that much money. The only teams that, like, if you spend, like, the entire 3 years rebuilding, like, where you're really, like, pushing a bunch of cap space in the future years, you know, like, trading players away for draft picks, you could get up against it. But, like, a team like the Steelers is never really going to have to worry about that rule. I think it's honestly, like, something that, like, cap people talk about to make themselves sound smart more than it actually matters.
I was going to ask you how many times you even see, if you have any examples of teams like really having to be cognizant about it and like try to get there in terms of the spending.
I think there have been some times where some teams have like moved up some business to like get it in. But like I can't ever remember a team doing something that I looked at the deal and was like, well, that was dumb, and the explanation was, well, they had to spend it. Like I can't even ever remember it being a thing. It's just not. It's a very inside football thing that like some people like to talk about. I honestly think like to make themselves sound smart. Like it's basically a non-issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you pretty much never need to worry about it.
So, but we've talked about this a bit, and just like for I guess some potential clarification here in terms of the way because you mentioned the TJ Watt thing there, though, that could go either way, though, right? Like, because if they want to still add significantly to this year's roster, if there is a wide receiver to be had, or we've talked about the Jalen Ramsey thing, if for whatever reason that or Alexander were to come to fruition, whatever it might be, where that is kind of the way that they want to spend the $20-25, so maybe structure TJ differently because of that.
Yeah, so TJ has a year left on his contract. That year will get torn up as part of the negotiations for a new contract.
Right.
And so that new contract will have to have all of TJ's money that he is owed this year, at least, in it, and then a whole bunch of new money on top. So he's owed $21.5 million in base salary this year. He has $9.3 million in prorated signing bonus that has to stay in this year. Can't touch that money. Okay. So he will have at least a $9 million cap hit plus the minimum salary. So his cap hit right now is 30.5. He could theoretically clear $9 million of cap space if you give him a minimum salary, and that's it. In practice, it'll probably be less than that, but like that's about what he could cut out of the cap. So, but you could cut almost 20 million of the 30 theoretically. It'll honestly end up being like about half that probably, but. So that number can be pretty much whatever they want it to be. His 2025 cap hit, obviously that 9.3 has to stay, but outside of that, it can be a big range. And so they want to end up at the cap naturally without having to do a bunch of restructures. That's kind of where they want to be. That's how you sort of maximize your spending ability, is to be at the cap naturally. So that's kind of where they want to end up. If they spend a bunch of money, they can figure out TJ's deal to land there without having to do a bunch of restructures and be happy.
There we go. Good stuff. Good information. Appreciate the question. Appreciate all the questions. I don't even know if I gave him. Oh, yeah, I did. Banana Pistol 412. Shout out Banana Pistol. But yeah, some other good questions here that we will keep in the queue and get to as we work through the week, obviously. But Alan, yes, it already has been 30 plus minutes on the afternoon drive. So you know what I'm going to ask you. Tell the people they can find you.
Hey, Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now. It's the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the word. So I can get paid, sign up for SN Plus. It is still only $40 a year or $4.49 a month. It's still extremely inexpensive, even after our great big sale. And we have that live stream for SN Plus subscribers only coming up on Thursday night. Also got some SN Plus stories I know I've been teasing for a while, but are coming out at least one this week, if not two. And then you can always like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform. Nice round number here, not the one we want to be at, but 15,930, and I will go the old Chad Scott there, 30.
Oh, okay. There we go. That's good. There had to have been such, obviously, like James Conner. Who would have been before James Conner?
It's a bunch of like running backs.
Yeah, but like not any good ones. I feel like, right?
No,
I mean,
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. In my lifetime, who else has even worn it? I got to be missing somebody. Chad Scott, Jalen Warren, James Conner. Those are the only three I think I can come up with off the top of my head.
There was a kick returner running back, Allen Rossum, wore 30 for 1 year, 2007. Jordan Todman wore 30 for 1 year, backup running back.
That would have been, what, 14 or 15?
15, yeah. So there's a couple out there, but not what you'd call good.
No.
I
would have
at 30.
No.
Frank Pollard, of course, running back from the 1980s, probably the best. Maybe Chad Scott was better. Either Chad Scott or Frank Pollard is probably the best Steelers all time to wear 80 or wear 30. And Larry Anderson was a defensive back in the late 70s. Won the last two of those 4 Super Bowls.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Wasn't Beanie wearing it last year? And then ended up switching, obviously, because he actually made the roster.
Yes, he had it in the preseason last year. Preseason only Beanie Bishop. That would have been a heck of a pull.
I guess that's what I got to roll with, because I don't got anybody else. So for whatever reason, if you guys know another number 30 in Steelers history, drop it in the comments. Drop your favorite 30 Steelers history in the comments. Questions for a future episode, all that good
James
stuff.
Conner, very underrated Steelers player, I would say. He was very good here.
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't get hurt, the way that he did, I feel like down the stretch. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's a shame, kind of the way that, especially because he was a Pitt kid. Like, could have been an awesome story if you would have carved out really a long term and also taken over right after all the negative stuff with Bell. Like, man, if he would have been able to be the long term,
and he was a better player over the last 4 years than Najee Harris was.
Yes,
they'd have been better off keeping him. In hindsight. And some of us.
Yeah, we had that discussion on here, and somehow that ruffled some feathers, but it is what it is. Anyways, if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe. Don't be scared of the reviews. Don't be scared to leave a review despite the last one that we got, and try to live up to that. It's all right. Just leave whatever you want. Leave a question in there, whatever it might be. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok, and then you'll find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH. Aaron Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.